What is going on, Colts Nation? He is Jamal, and I'm Eric, your co-host of the Colts Cast.
So
A highly requested topic, Jamal, heavily talked about in our comments section. I feel like
been in the comments for sure.
got a few DMs about it. Yeah, we get DMs. Let's talk about him, the enigma, Shemar Stewart, edge out of Texas A&M. I would have to say he's probably one of the most polarizing first round prospects in this upcoming NFL draft. And depending on the mock draft you look at, he could be gone at like number 8. He could land somewhere in the 20s. Like he's got a wide range right now. So here we are breaking down the case for Shemar Stewart to the Colts and against. Pros and cons, general discussion, all that. Jamal, what's the verdict? I mean, should the Colts take him? If he's there at 14, why or why not?
That's a big question right there. Hit that like and subscribe button. Drop a comment below. Let us know what you think. And again, we appreciate y'all reaching out in the comments and in DMs about that because we love to have these discussions. So we wanted to tailor this episode exactly to that. And I'm gonna give my opinion here at the end, but I want to talk about the pros first, and we'll talk about the cons, and then I'll make that decision. Because like you mentioned, this guy's he can be a prolific player. I mean, this is a big dude, athletic freak on paper. 6'5", 267, roughly at the combine, I believe it was. Ran a 4.59 40, a 40-inch vert, 10-foot 11-inch broad jump, long arms. I mean, on paper, an animal. Exactly what we will want at that edge spot. Can be shifty on the line, knock linemen off their game easily. Direction change, can bend to get around the lineman to get in between the linemen. I mean, he's not really worried about guards and tackles. You know, he can split the difference between that. Dude has the potential to be an all-around game changer for the years to come. So I can definitely see the hype behind him. And Eric, I'm going to let you talk here about him, some pros too, because I definitely think he could bring an interesting dynamic to a team where we have a Kwity Paye, who's going to be on a contract year going to contract next year. A Tyquan Lewis, Samson Ibukam, who's coming back from an injury. So we're going to talk about that here.
Achilles injury.
Achilles injury, yeah. I mean, let's hear your thoughts on it real quick, though.
Man, you know, Jamal, I think because we talked about this in one of our last episodes that probably not a good pick in this situation due to that boom or bust potential and the development arc he needs to go through to reach that full potential. You know, like you said, his ceiling's probably an all-pro. However, I said that under the conditions of Chris Ballard keeping his job. And y'all know Jamal don't care whether he's there or not. And quite frankly, I don't. I care more about the success of this team. You know, if Chris Ballard somehow gets his team to 12 wins next season, I mean, that's fine. I just want to see this team rise. But I guess back to the point I'm trying to make, I'm quite torn on him, Jamal. I mean, the pros are pretty nice. I mean, I would say the most athletically gifted edge prospect, defensive end prospect ever. I mean, at least according to the raw score, which is the relative athletic score, he scored a 10 out of 10, which ranked number 1 out of over 2,000 defensive end prospects from 1987 to 2025, according to Kent Lee Platt. So, like, the most athletically gifted prospect, at least according to the Ross. So then that begs the question, you know, like, could he follow the footsteps of another legendary Aggie by the name of Myles Garrett, who was a number 1 overall pick back in 2017? You know, I would say there's some positive correlation with extremely high raw scores and great edge rushers. You got Myles Garrett, of course, Trayvon Walker, multiple 10-plus sack seasons now, Mario Williams, 4-time All-Pro, first and second team, 4-time Pro Bowler. By the way, these guys were all first overall picks in their respective draft classes. Willie McGinnis, Super Bowl champion, Danielle Hunter. I mean, I could probably go on, but there is that potential there. Of course, there's some high ROS players that don't pan out. Jelani Woods,
yeah.
But
I know you're just gonna say it or not. I was gonna break the news.
Yeah, but we're talking about a different position, tight end versus edge. I just think there's a tremendous amount of upside, Jamal, with a player of his length, his quickness, and and that Captain America like athleticism. He just explodes off the line, and he weighs what, 270. That's crazy. That's
Big dude.
unheard of.
Yeah.
I would say he's got some versatility to his game. I know you were saying doesn't matter if it's a guard or tackle, but I've seen him line up against guards and absolutely dominate them. He just moves different, so he can line up over the guard. He can line up wide 9 on 2 feet, no hands in the dirt. He can line up on the edge in the dirt. It don't matter. Just what we like to hear, with Anarumo's complex defense. We hear it all the time. I haven't watched a lot of Bengals defense, but that's kind of what Anarumo's bringing to the Colts. A little bit of complexity. So you need those chess pieces that you can align in different positions. Pass rushers, valuable position. They showed their strength in the last Super Bowl matchup with the Eagles and Chiefs, where Mahomes was pressured about half the time, and that was when the Eagles were only sending 4. Like,
Yeah.
Copycat league or not, pass or edge rusher, whatever you want to call it, I think is a top 3 consensus most valuable position in football. So, if Latu can take that next step forward this year, along with Stewart, if he could somehow make an impact year 1 and show some flashes, and we got Grove at the 0 tech, we got Defoe at the 3 tech. I mean, fam, that's a top 5 potential line.
Yeah. No question about it. I mean, that encompasses everything that you need to know on the pro side, because this literally could just be the elevation. But then we have to ask ourselves about, what comes with that, because I mean, you mentioned that boomer bust at the beginning of this, so we have to talk about ceilings, floors, and how it's going to matter in a time like this, where again, our GM Chris Ballard is supposedly on the hot seat. So he has to think smart about this, because we're talking about a guy, before I even get down that rabbit hole, we have to ask ourselves, is Ballard going to do the classic Ballard traits formula on this one? Like you mentioned, perfect raw score, 10 out of 10 or a 10.0. I mean,
It's a Ballard guy.
That's a Ballard guy through and through. I don't care if the dude's never looked at a football before. He sees that, he says, I can figure something out with him.
Yep.
But then you have to ask yourself, can the use of his athleticism that he used on the field be as a potential downfall for him in the NFL? And one player I like to mention, I like to think about when it comes to that, and Eric, I think you can attest this because we watched him play for, the years while we were in school and everything, is a Jadeveon Clowney, where that's someone who was so athletic that he didn't have to really focus on building his traits up to be who he needed to be, because he could giftedly get around people. I think we can kind of almost have that discussion on the opposite side of the ball for the Colts right now. People have said that someone like Anthony Richardson, who is giftedly talented, has never, and athletic, has never had to use these more mental steps and more practical steps, because you've been the most athletic person out on the field, so it didn't matter. So I think that's one thing to think about.
Yeah, I heard some crazy stories about Jadeveon Clowney's work ethic in college.
No work ethic.
Also in the NFL, yeah, I mean, it showed up. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, don't show up to lift and don't show up to practice, whatever. Different story for a different day, y'all. But I wanted to mention a couple stats to y'all in regards to that, because sack leaders for the Colts over the past couple years. I just want to give y'all some names. But the biggest thing about that is the Colts need more pressure on the QB to generate sacks. We know that. In 2023, we saw 51 sacks, crazy number, super high number for us. But then we tanked to 36 sacks in 2024. We look at our pressure rate in 2023. It was a pressure rate of 38.9%. Now, when we look at that number and you correlate the 51 sacks, those numbers are just kind of up and down, and you kind of wonder yourself, these sacks kind of seem a little inflated to only be getting pressure 38% of the time, especially when we look at the decrease we had in 2024 of going from 38.9 pressure rate to a 31.5 pressure rate, and it's significantly dropping in the sacks. So those numbers kind of show you just the downfall what this team had. And with that being said, Kwity Paye and Tyquan Lewis both last year were in the bottom half of pass rush win rate of the league.
Shocker.
And I want to say that, and I want to put that out there, because Kwity Paye led the team last year with 8 sacks. I talked about this with Yannick Ngakoue, and I said that these are those silent sacks where, although the number was kind of padded and cushed, it didn't matter because they were nothing sacks. So Kwity Paye had 8 sacks last year. 2023, Ibicom had 9.5 sacks. We all remember that year because that was a solid one for him. The year before that, 2022, Yannick had 9.5. 2021, D-Buck had 7. 2020, D-Buck had 9.5. So on and so forth. I say that because some of these years were just such silent sack years for us, leaders, that we didn't really notice what was going on. Just one complete side note, as going through this list, obviously we know how good Robert Mathis and Dwight Freeney were. Their numbers were impeccable. I mean, talking Dwight Freeney in 2004 had 16 sacks in the year. That's crazy. But then you look at Robert Mathis in 2013, 19.5 sacks. My man was cooking something crazy up that year. But we're not here to talk about that right there. I just want to throw that number out there because it was on the list. So I figured you'd appreciate that. But what I'm getting at is this. With having Kwity Paye even get 8 sacks and still having such a bottom of the half pass rush win rate, that scares me because when I look at Stewart, he only had 4 sacks, I believe it was, over his career.
4.5 sacks.
4.5 sacks, yeah. And I think he had 39 pressures this year. Percentage-wise, it was a very low percentage. I think 11% or something like that. So while he's an athletic freak on paper and he's fast, he can shoot the gaps, he can do this, he can do that. Not every missed opportunity was his fault. But it also scares me that can we potentially walk into something where, hey, listen, we could be in the same situation where we're not generating the pressure that we need to because we know that Grover is like a run stopper. He's not so much going to go get sacks. He's going to be that run. He's going to be clog up that hole for us. Kwity Paye ain't producing the way he should. Of course, we still have Latu out here who's a young buck. He's going into year 2. Then we could be looking at bringing in someone like Stewart here who, while he is gifted across the board, he's going to be able to transition to the NFL and then elevate himself to that Myles Garrett level. Because like we mentioned, they did go to the same school, but Myles Garrett, I think, had 31 or 33 sacks over his 10 years. So he was eating nonstop. So those are just a little bit of comparisons that I wanted to bring into the con side because we have a problem right now with our pass rush win rate in correlation with our sacks and silent sacks that we've talked about year in and year out, where quarterbacks are still getting opportunities to get the ball out. So could this also hinder us by getting someone like him? I don't know.
4.5 sacks across 3 seasons.
Sacks?
I mean,
wild.
Dude, that is God. That's 3 collegiate seasons. So I will say, he wasn't a full-time starter until last season, but even last season, 1.5 sacks in 2024. Yeah, I mean, Jamal, this is a clear example of betting on traits and hoping this guy can develop and be coached by, Partridge and Rumo, and hopefully they can get the most out of him. That would be what Ballard's hoping for. I mean, because he's got to be more consistent. Like his pass rushing techniques just got to be more refined. Like unbelievable athlete, but are you a good football player? Like that at the end of the day, are you a good football player? I will say something that's helping him out. The sacks weren't there, and I feel like a lot of times that can be misleading because. Sure. Sacks are crucial, I will say, but what was his pressure rate? He actually led Texas A&M in pressure. So he had the pressure rate there. At least he led his team, whether that be a low number or not. He was the highest percentage player in that aspect. So that makes me feel a little better. That makes me say, okay, you're getting there. You just can't finish your opportunity. The other thing, I oh my God, you're gonna hate this, Jamal, because it gets ugly. 27% missed tackle rate.
That's scary.
I don't know how you get a number 1 raw score out of all. Hold on, out of all defensive end prospects, edge rushers. If you don't run the 3-cone or the shuttle drill, because he didn't run any of those. And my concern right there would be the lateral agility. So if you're missing over a quarter of your tackles, a quarter of your opportunities, again, not being able to finish, you're missing over a quarter of your tackles. It makes me think you're kind of a little stiff right there, and people are juking you out. Like something ain't right. You're going way too high. I don't know. But if you're that stiff in college, how does that translate to the pros when guys are twice as fast? I mean, yes, he played in the SEC, but boy, I'm telling you, there's some different breeds out there in the NFL. Um, I don't think he's a great run stopper at this point in his career. Our opposing team's going to take advantage of him in that aspect. Are they going to run to his side? Will we have to add an additional defender somewhere in the box to that side to compensate, which puts others at a disadvantage that the offense could take advantage of? There's some question marks, and I see how teams could have different evaluations on this guy depending on what they prefer. Maybe they're like, oh, miss tackle rate, we can fix that. We know how to coach better tacklers. But like, I don't know, just like you said, Jamal, that the lack of production, like this is why I don't want to compare him to Myles Garrett.
Yeah. Yep.
I only brought that out is because the similar raw score, he was an Aggie.
Oh yeah.
Myles Garrett was built different and number 1 overall pick, and he's panned out. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer. So like, let's be completely honest. Myles Garrett is a clear-cut Hall of Famer. Like, I don't know if this guy can do that. It's just he's going to have to take that significant leap. And I mean, he's only 21, so it's possible. It's just, man, 1.5 sacks last season. Whether you led in pressure rate or not, I mean, that's tough. That's a tough pill to swallow.
It is.
So number 14 overall, he on the board. Loveland and Warren are gone. Jahad Campbell's gone.
Ooh. Am I gonna do it?
And Will Johnson got, like, I don't know. All your favorite picks are gone. What are you doing? Like, or all your favorite picks are there. What are you doing?
Yeah, without question, if my picks are there, I'm passing. Now, if my picks aren't there, I'm definitely gonna look at BPA, and I guess maybe about raw score wise, he may be BPA, but is that going to be BPA in regards to, what's going on? Because you know what? No, I'm saying no because I'm still if I'm saying no, if he's there, I'm not gonna do it. I'd rather take my risk on a first round lineman. I can find me a first round lineman in there, offensive lineman. Who's going to be the future of the right side?
What if they're all gone?
If they're all gone, then I may have to go.
Will Campbell's gone. Armand Membu's gone. I don't know.
I'd be hard pressed simply for the fact that, again, this is while again he looks great on paper, I just can't trust the transition into the league because I've watched too many players with that we've gone by over the past 7-8 years of phenomenal raw scores not pan out. To me the scores aren't the end all be all. I know that ceilings are there, I know upside is there, but the word flash gets used so often. I see flashes here, flashes there. It's not a fucking Polaroid. I need to see plays. So I can't rely on flashes for
I hear you.
My first
yeah. Because like it's different now because what if he ends up like Anthony Richardson? Because what was the draft sentiment when Anthony Richardson was drafted? I think Colts Nation, most of them were ecstatic. They were like, oh yeah, we got the most athletically gifted quarterback ever. Man, I don't care. Like, yo, Steichen about to develop this dude. And then, fast forward 2 years in Colts Nation, we're pretty split on whether he's going to be a franchise QB or a practice squad QB. So it's, yeah, I will be kind of sad if we take Stewart. And it's not the fact that, because he could end up.
He could.
He could end up being a Pro Bowler, All Pro, but we ain't got time to wait on that.
No.
I'm trying to give Anthony Richardson something now to maximize his potential, whether that's on offense or defense. He needs help now, and Stewart obviously ain't producing now, and I don't think in his first year in the NFL he's about to be producing like that. That's really it's all about moving the needle. I don't think that moves the needle. So I'm gonna have to agree, Jamal. Pass, not a hard pass, but
not a hard pass. No.
Just a pass because of the situation we are in. Because a lot of teams right now, it's do or die, and the Colts are kind of one of them. So I don't think do or die means draft Shemar Stewart.
Yeah, absolutely. Development time wise, I think that again he could possibly pan out to be a great player, but at this point in the Colts organization, no one, I don't think is thinking to themselves, "Hey, we got 2-3 years to get this guy developed and on the field
Yeah.
while we have another year of a contract year for these other guys." They're not thinking like that.
They ain't got time for that because it would be incumbent on the Colts to develop him like immediately. Like like outside of OTAs, like you at his house on
Yeah,
Thursday
yeah,
in May or something. Yeah, like you got to get the so you need a year one starter,
yeah.
and I don't think Shemar Stewart is a year one full time starter for the Indianapolis Colts.
Not at this time, no.
But let us know what you all think in the comments because we just spent 20 minutes talking about Shemar Stewart.
Yeah.
So if you've gotten this far, I know you got some comments to put down. Go ahead and like the video if you haven't. And if you're new, if this is the first video you've seen for the Colts cast, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We are trying to get to that 2,500 number, hit that big milestone for us again, and hopefully, get to know more people in the Colts space. Now, you got anything else?
That's gonna be it for me, man. It was a hell of an episode.
You sure?
I'm positive.
I'll bring up Chris Ballard.
Nah, he's got his own fish to fry. I'm curious what's gonna happen for him here coming up.
Yeah. That's going to be it for us, everyone. Thank you for listening to the Colts Cast. We are live on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or any platform you use to listen to podcasts. And we'll be back next time to give you some more Indianapolis Colts content. Later.